everyone, settle down, grab your notebooks. Welcome back to today's Explainer. We are diving straight into Unit 4, the Pushyabhuti Dynasty. And let me tell you, this is a wild one. It's got everything. Empire building, huge leaps in education, and literally some of the most intense, edge-of-your-seat royal family drama you're ever going to study. So let's get into it. Here's our game plan for today. 1. Out of the ashes. 2. Enter the Vardhan Dynasty. 3. The ultimate royal betrayal. 4. Harshvardhan's revenge and reign. And finally, the fall of Pushyabhuti. Starting off with Section 1, Out of the Ashes. Picture this. It's the mid-6th century. The mighty Gupta Empire up north completely collapsed. Gone. And that leaves a massive, super dangerous power vacuum. Now down south, the established dynasties like the Vakatakas, the Chalukyas, and the Pallavas, they're holding things down just fine. But up in the north, total chaos. It is a massive scramble for power between the later Gupta, the Malkari, the Gauda, and the guys we're focusing on today, the Pushyabhuti. To keep us grounded, let's look at the timeline. It's wild to think about, but this entire action-packed historical saga, it all happened in just one single century. We start right in the mid-6th century with the rise of the Pushyabhuti. Then we'll hit a huge turning point in 620 AD with the Battle of Narmada. And by the end of the century, the whole dynasty completely collapses. Moving right along to Section 2, enter the Vardhan Dynasty. So, a quick heads up, you are going to hear the Pushyabhuti Empire called the Vardhan Dynasty quite a bit. Why the two names? Well, a king, literally named Pushyabhuti, founded it. But the first guy to really put them on the map was Prabhakaravardhan. This guy was a powerhouse. He fought off the Huns up in present-day Punjab, keeping his kingdom totally safe, and basically turned his capital, Thaneshwar, into an absolute fortress. He made such a massive impact that the dynasty just went ahead and adopted his namesake. And Prabhakaravardhan wasn't just tough. He was a total political genius. He had this brilliant foreign policy. First, he locks down a crucial alliance with the weakening Malkari kingdom by marrying his daughter, Rajyashri, off to their king, Grahavarman. Smart, right? Then, while he's at it, he completely crushes King Devagupta of Malwa, who just so happened to be the sworn enemy of the Malkari, and just absorbs Malwa right into his own empire. Which brings us to Section 3, the ultimate royal betrayal. All right, here is where things get incredibly messy. Tragedy strikes completely out of nowhere. King Prabhakaravardhan gets severely ill while his two sons, Rajyavardhan and Harshvardhan, are way off fighting the Huns. And before the eldest son, Rajyavardhan, can even make it back home, the king passes away. So Rajyavardhan inherits the throne at quite literally the worst possible moment. Because guess who makes a move? The Golden Empire, led by King Shashanka of Bengal. Shashanka is ruthless. He actually teams up with Devagupta, the same enemy the Pushyabhuti just fought. Together, they attack the Malkari capital of Kannauj. They murder King Grahavarman and, worst of all, they kidnap Rajyashri, the new king's sister. Put yourself in King Rajyavardhan's shoes for a second. Your dad just died, your brother-in-law was murdered, and your sister is being held hostage. He is absolutely furious. So furious, in fact, that he just hands control of the entire kingdom over to his younger brother, Harshvardhan, so he can personally lead a massive army straight to Kannauj. He actually succeeds in killing Devagupta in battle. But there's a devastating twist. When the dust settles, he can't find his sister, Rajyashri, anywhere. Desperate, right? Rajyavardhan marches his army straight toward that Gauda king Shashanka. Now, Shashanka takes one look at this army and realizes he is completely outmatched. So he pulls off this incredibly brilliant but deeply cruel three-step scheme. Step 1, he offers a full surrender. Step 2, he sweetens the deal by offering his own daughter's hand in marriage to Rajyavardhan to form an alliance, which totally wins over his trust. And Step 3, the second Rajyavardhan lets his guard down, showing up alone and unarmed, Shashanka assassinates him in cold blood. And that sparks Section 4, Harshvardhan's revenge and reign. So now, younger brother Harshvardhan officially takes the throne. His brother is dead, his sister is still missing, and he makes a terrifying, ironclad vow of revenge. But Harshvardhan is smart. He plays the diplomatic game even better than the guys who betrayed his family. He builds this massive, overwhelming alliance with King Bhaskaravarman of the Kamarupa kingdom. This combined army is so insanely huge that King Shashanka doesn't even try to put up a fight. No, Shashanka literally runs away and hides deep in the forest of Odisha. But listen, Harshvardhan's main goal wasn't just hunting down Shashanka. He wanted to find his sister. And in this incredibly emotional historical moment, he finally tracks Rajyashri down. He arrives just in the nick of time to rescue her from committing sati, which was the ancient practice of a widow sacrificing herself on her husband's funeral pyre. He brings her safely back to Kannauj, and what I love about this is, rather than just taking over her lands, he actually helps administer the Malkari realm under her name out of respect and only fully merge it into his empire after she passes away. Now, don't get the wrong idea, Harshvardhan wasn't just some warlord out for revenge. Once his family was safe, and Shashanka had finally died, which let Harshvardhan absorb that Gupta Empire, he ruled like an absolute ideal king. He kicked off what historians call a golden age for the empire. We're talking massive promotions of art and education. He was especially known for being a huge benefactor of the scholars and intellectuals over at the legendary Nalanda University. Now, as history students, you might be asking, how do we know all these super specific details today? Well, we look at our primary sources. We're lucky enough to have the accounts of the famous Chinese traveler Hiuen Tsang and the brilliant writings of the author Banabhatta. Both of these guys actually lived during Harshvardhan's reign. They documented his incredibly efficient administration in their books, which is exactly why we get to study his greatness today. Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 5, the fall of Pushyabhuti. So, Harshvardhan has expanded his empire all the way across Gouda and is pushing hard toward the Narmada River. But his unstoppable force is about to hit an unmovable object. As he relentlessly pushes south and attacks Vallabhi, the local king gets desperate. He goes running for protection to the immensely powerful Chalukya king Pulakeshin II. Class, if you only memorize one date from today's explainer, make sure it's 620 AD. This is the year of the legendary Battle of Narmada. It was right here in 620 AD that King Pulakeshin II actually did the impossible. He soundly defeated Harshvardhan in battle. He permanently stopped the Pushyabhuti Dynasty from expanding any further south. But remember, Harshvardhan was a master strategist right to the very end. Okay, so he lost the physical battle at Narmada, but what does he do next? He turns around, makes peace with the Vallabhi king, Dhruvasena II, and actually arranges a marriage alliance between his own daughter and the Vallabhi king. It's a total stroke of diplomatic genius. Despite losing the war, he basically won influence over the entire Vallabhi territory anyway. Yet, as we see so often in history, the greatest threat to an empire isn't always an invading army. Sometimes it's just biology. This entire magnificent dynasty, it was only in power for a mere 100 years. Why did it fall apart so fast? Because when Harshvardhan finally died, he didn't leave behind a single heir. No successor meant instant chaos. The massive Pushyabhuti dynasty immediately collapsed and was just carved up among his various local feudatories. But even though they were just a relatively short-lived blip on the grand timeline of Indian history, the Pushyabhuti dynasty and Harshvardhan specifically absolutely cemented their place in history. They protected India from foreign invasions, they united a totally fractured north during a time of absolute chaos, and they permanently shaped the cultural and educational landscape by supporting massive institutions like Nalanda University. Which leaves us with one really big, lingering question for our next class. Who in the world was King Pulakeshin II? Who was this incredible, powerful ruler who managed to do what literally no one else could and stop the mighty Harshvardhan right in his tracks? Make sure you review your notes on the Vardhan Dynasty tonight, because in our next explainer, we are heading down south to answer that exact question. Great job today, everyone. I'll see you next time.